I recently created a new user within my Entra ID as well as in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, because I mentioned before when you create it in one, you automatically create it in the other. Now, it's the best idea to create users in the Admin Center because you have a lot more options. So for instance, I can go in and add a contact. Here you can see that contacts are people outside your organization you'd like everyone to be able to find. It's not the same as a guest user. A contact is someone that you just want to show up when you go to email someone, that it's an option within your email address book. So I'll click on Add a Contact. And I'll say that the contact's name is Fred Gert, and the email is going to be fredgert@gmail.com. Now, you could add in this contact and then hide it, but then again, why would you do that if you want it to show up? Now, here's some profile information you can add in if you'd like to see that. And there's also mail tip options as well. So when you go to email this person, you get a little pop-up that gives some information about Fred if you want to email him. So I'll click Add, and then this contact will now be able to be created. I can also add multiple contacts. I'm going to click the X here. And by clicking on Add Multiple Contacts, I would need to have a CSV file. Now, the CSV file has to be modified in a way where it can be imported. You can see you can upload up to 40 contacts per CSV file. So you'll need to go to learn.microsoft.com to find out how to properly format the CSV file. Here you can download a file that you can take a look at a sample, so that way you can match the way that they want you to do it. I'm going to skip that because that's not something that's done very often, and I like to focus on things that you're going to be doing in your job on a regular basis. Same thing for export contacts. You can export these into a CSV file, but again, that's just something that's not done very often. So let's move on to things that you will do, such as guest users. Guest users, as I mentioned in a previous video, are not the same as licensed Entra ID users. They are mainly there to be able to attend meetings in Teams. Teams, of course, is a conferencing program you can use for chat, you can use for video conferences, you can use to share documents, and a lot of other things. So you can click on Add a Guest User here, or you can click on Go to Entra to add the guest users there. I'll choose to add the guest user here, and when I do, it automatically opens up this portal.azure.com and takes me into the Entra ID website. So now I have the option to invite a new guest user to collaborate. So I'll click on Invite User, and I can put in the name, and I'll say this is Sally at techpub.us and click Invite. Now, this user is going to receive the invitation, choose to accept it, and if they do, they'll be able to be added into any Teams type of conference, anything else that this guest user is allowed to use. I'm going to go back into my guest users, and Sally is now in the list. If I've deleted any users, they'll show up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the Entra Admin Center and go to Users, All Users. You can also see deleted users in the Entra Admin Center as well. So now I'm going to delete a user. I'm going to delete Judy. So I'll go to the Delete option, click OK, and Judy's now gone. I can go to the deleted options here, and here you can see Judy after having deleted her, and I can select her name and choose Restore Users. I can also do the same thing within my Admin Center, so if you deleted the user there, or you'd like to restore that user from there, you can go ahead and choose Restore as well. So I'm going to choose to restore Judy from my Entra Admin Center. There's really no difference in doing it from one place or the other. So I'll click on Restore User, click OK, and now that user has been restored and should be showing back up in the All Users section. And after a quick refresh, Judy's account is back in good standing. After 30 days, the accounts that have been deleted, if they haven't been restored, will automatically be permanently deleted. Now let's take a look at user settings. These are the default settings for all users, and you can make changes here. It will affect all those users as well. So users can register an application. So that means they can register an application that they're going to use. You can either choose yes or no on that. You can hover over the information. You can see it indicates whether the default user can create an application. You can restrict non-admin users from creating tenants. That's probably a good idea because tenants are a whole new separate type of client where a lot of extra expenses could be incurred. Users can create security groups. You may or may not want your users to be able to create those. I'll just go ahead and leave it as on right now. And here's what the guests can do. So the guest user access restrictions. By default, guest users have limited access to properties and memberships. That's a good idea. But you could also say guest users have the same access as members. Not a great idea. And it's because it could cause some security issues for people not members of your organization. Or you could say guest user access is restricted to properties and memberships of their own directory and objects. And that's going to be the most restrictive, which I would recommend, but you can do what's best for your organization. Now, by default, it's shocking, I know, but you could allow your users to access the Entra Admin Center. Now, you have the option here that says restrict access to Microsoft Admin Center. And right now it says no. Now, it doesn't mean that they'll have access to a lot of things, but they may have more access to things than you may want them to have. So I think it's a great idea to restrict access to the Entra Admin Center. And again, this is just for user settings. This is not for any administrators. Allow users to connect their work or school accounts with LinkedIn. Yes or no. That's with the LinkedIn website because Microsoft does own LinkedIn. And then you could keep users signed in, and that just is informational only. And then there's some additional options here for external users and user features. So for instance, if I click on manage external users, then here you can give a little bit more restriction or open things up a little bit if you'd like, based on what you see here. Here are guest invite settings and how you invite a guest, as well as external user can leave the settings if they'd like, which you can allow or not allow, and collaboration restrictions. All those are good things for you to review to decide how much access you want that user to have. I'm going to go back to all users and go to a user that does have a login and has all kinds of information and history, and that is the admin account. So within the admin account, if I click on audit logs, for instance, you can see all the different times that this user has logged in and some of the different activities they did, such as I just restored that user. So you can see restore user, I deleted a user, I updated a user, all different types of different things that got audited. And you can click on any one of those logs for more information. You can also see when this user is signed in. So here's a list of the sign-ins that were recent, what their IP address, where they came from, as well as location and other information. If I go to the assigned roles, it tells us what assigned roles this has. And when you see Global Administrator, you know that this user is the one that has the most amount of rights of anybody in the organization. That is Global Administrator. You can also see Cloud Administrator was also added. Adding the Global Administrator for a user doesn't necessarily give them access to everything. Strangely enough, there are still some additional roles that you may need certain times. And you'll know that when you try to do something and it says you don't have the rights to do it. Then you simply go to the role section and go ahead and add yourself into it. And you can simply just go up to where it says the search box, type in roles, and choose the Entra roles and administrators. And here it's going to show you the list of all the different roles that you can assign yourself to, or you can assign any user to. So here, for instance, is the Global Administrator I mentioned earlier. So I'll click on Global Administrator, and here you can see that the admin account does have that right. Now, that's what you're going to want to assign when you create a new tenant. You need to create a Global Administrator for that tenant and then log in as that particular user. Here you can go to the role settings, and it tells you a lot of the different things that you can do, such as the maximum duration in hours you can be logged in. In this case, it shows 8 hours, but it is possible to click on edit and make changes to a lot of these various different settings. What I like to do is to go into where it says description. Now the description tells me all the different role permissions. So you can see all the role permissions of what the global administrator can do. It doesn't tell you what you can't do. It does tell you what you can do. Now, some of these different role permissions are going to show privileged. That means that they have escalated types of abilities that a regular user cannot be assigned to. So you can scroll through these. You can see there are dozens of them in here. I'm going to go back to assignments. And this is under active assignments, but let's click on eligible assignments. So you can click on add. This is under active assignments, but if you like, you can go to expired assignments just to see if any assignments that you had that you no longer have, and you can go ahead and add yourself back in if you need to. So that's how you can go in and look at various different roles as well as add users to those roles when you need to. I'm going to go back to users and select my admin once again. And I can go in and add my user to additional groups. I can also go in and assign applications to it. But I first need to go into the applications section here, which I'll do in an upcoming video, where I will register an application with a user. Then you'll be able to see what applications the user should be able to get. Here are the licenses that I've assigned in admin.microsoft.com. You can see this user got assigned the E3 developer license, which is similar to the E5, but doesn't have quite as many different features. Then you can see any devices that the user has logged into or registered through the Azure portal. And here you can see the Client 01 that I had done earlier. Under Azure role assignments, you can see I don't have any Azure role assignments that I've assigned this user to right now. Azure role assignments are a little bit different than assigned roles. This has to do with any resource groups you might have created, and a resource group basically is a group that you use to create additional resources such as a virtual machine, storage, and other things like that. Then you can assign those role assignments to those resources here. We'll take a look at Azure resources in an upcoming video. Then we have authentication methods. And these are the ways that the users will log in to Entra ID. They can use their phone numbers, they can use email addresses, they can use a lot of different things. I can also choose to reset the password or require that I re-register for multi-factor authentication if something has gone wrong and multi-factor authentication doesn't work right. I'm going to click on switching to the new authentication method experience. And then click on the Access Panel profile, which opens up a new site. And here I can see a lot of the same information that I could see when I was logged into the Entra ID Admin Center, but this is really designed for the users. So when the users log into myaccount.microsoft.com, this is the information they see. So they can update their security information, they can change their password, they can go to the settings and privacy, all different types of things that they can go in and manage. So this is really designed, again, not for the administrator, it's designed for each individual user. I just happen to be logged in as the administrator right now. As an example, I can click on Manage Devices, and I should be able to see my Client 01, and there it is. And I could choose BitLocker keys and other things like that that I could see in my Entra ID Admin Center. In this video, you've seen information about role assignments and user settings, so you can customize the use of Entra ID by the user as well as the administrator.